I'm a 20-year-old, fresh out of college, working the check-in desk at my local gym. Turns out a communications degree might not be as useful as I was led to believe, since all I can get is this job that doesn't even require an education. I do, however, earn slightly more than minimum wage, so there's that. Suck it, dropouts. If you're wondering which gym I work at, I'm not gonna say. It's a part of a chain with a big enough name that chances are you've heard it before. I don't want to draw unnecessary attention. I'm writing this because some stuff has been happening during my night shifts, stuff that I can't explain. At first, the job wasn't so bad. Most of what I do involves sitting at the desk and checking in members. Occasionally, I'll have to clean some equipment or refill hand sanitizer bottles, but it's pretty laid back shift. There are a few members to keep an eye on between the hours of 8 and 11. But the closer you get to midnight, you start seeing less and less people showing up to exercise. 12 to 3 is usually dead empty. I use that free time to read most nights. I've been working my way through a fat stack of books that I've had for years, but never got around to reading. Game of Thrones is actually pretty good. Who knew? The first few nights, I wasn't left to work alone. My supervisor is a guy named Connor, maybe 30 or 31 years old. I'm not so good with ages. He's been working here for a few years now. He showed me the ropes of first couple of shifts. Connor's easy enough to get along with when we work together. I think he just wants to make it through the night so that he can get home and play some Call of Duty with his friends. He's not the type to boss me around or make things difficult, but he did warn me that I might see some strange things if I worked late night. Just do your job. Ignore anything weird you see, and you'll be fine, he told me on my first shift. As long as no one thrashes the place, don't interrupt them. The people who come in late, who come at 2 or 3 in the morning, they already lead unconventional lives. If they're a bit weird, that's just the kind of people they are. Don't question anybody. People only want to work out. Don't question anyone. Got it. And don't forget that first part too. Ignore anything weird you might see. Weird? Like people damaging the equipment? No, if you see that, call this number. Connor taped a phone number on the laminated sheet on the desk. And you check their faces with the info registered on the file. That's a member who won't be a member much longer. Then, like what? I asked, genuinely curious. What weird stuff do you mean? Connor heaved a great sigh, as though he wishes he were having any conversation but this one. Listen, you've never worked a grave shift before. I shook my head. Well, it's easy to think you're seeing things, especially here, he said, and gestured to the mostly empty gym. Odd as it may seem, graveyard shifts can make even the most sane guy nervous, jumpy. Heck, even I've seen things I can explain. You'll do fine though. Everyone does. Just ignore anything you see or hear, or anything you think you see or hear. If you do that, everything will be fine. So hammer the point home. He even scribbled a reminder in Sharpie on a sticky note. Just ignore it, the note commanded, and he stuck it on the side of the computer monitor at the desk. Connor's advice seemed helpful at first, but when I got used to the job and he started letting me take the night shifts alone, I realized it. I realized it was more than helpful. It was necessary. The members aren't what bothers me, although we've got a few weirdos who come in at oddly specific times every week. It's the things that I see when no one else is around that bothers me. One time, while sitting in my desk reading, I felt an uncomfortable tension in the air. I don't know why I noticed it. It was as if, just then, someone had entered the gym, but the floor was empty. I felt a presence creeping into my consciousness. Very slowly, I swept my gaze across the surroundings, seeing nothing, just before I ignored it, waving it all off as a late night jitters. I saw something I can't explain. I saw the bar on one of the pull-down machines trembling in the air, a huge number of weights strung up on the machine as though someone were sitting there exercising. The bar was hanging, quivering in space, empty space. The moment I noticed it, the bar went sailing back upward, and the weights fell back down with a resounding crash. I would have fled the gym then and there if I weren't paralyzed with fear. And then there was the sticky note Connor had left me to. Just ignore it, as that conversation replayed in my head. I wondered if this were the sort of thing he might have been talking about. A workout equipment moving on its own? I bit my tongue so hard it bled, and I pressed down my fear deep down into my shoes and socks until my paralysis was overcome. And I ignored it. I went back to my reading as if nothing had happened at all. Still, the next time I came in for a shift, I went over to look at the machines that had dropped all those weights. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Every now and then I hear a crash of unexplainable weights. Sometimes it even happens when there are late night memories exercising, but no one ever seems to know who caused it. They'll look around and shrug and go back to their exercise. But I've seen the bar lower on its own. I know what they don't. Other explainable things have been happening. There's an elliptical machine in the corner that sometimes comes awake if I'm not looking. It's silent, as silent can be. Some of the other machines squeak and moan, but you know right away if they're moving. But this one just glides along quiet, as a mouse. If you didn't know to look, you wouldn't be able to tell if it were moving. That's how quiet it is. If I do look at it though, it will come to a gentle stop, but as soon as I turn my attention back to my books, it'll start up again. I can sometimes see a glimpse of something move in the mirrors, of those pedals pumping up and down. It gives me such unbearable creeps. I really, really hate that machine. As bad as all that stuff is, none of it holds a candle to the shower man. I don't know what he is, who he is, or what he wants, or if he's in any way connected to the other stuff that's been going on here. The shower man never appears if someone else is there with me. Whenever it's a coworker or a member using the gym's facilities, only when I'm totally alone, and even then, not too often. When he arrives, the lights over the bathroom door will flicker, and I'll hear the shower water start running, even though no one is there. Can you imagine what it's like to be sitting in a gym completely alone at 3 in the morning? With the fluorescent lights on overhead and the radio's music quiet in the background, with the blackest screens of night fogging just beyond the great glass windows, barely concealed by the equipment's reflection in the screen. If you can imagine that, then you know it's not a great headspace for anything out of the ordinary to happen. The first time I saw those bathroom lights flicker, my entire being snapped to attention. I was petrified. Worse than the flickering of lights, worse than the noise of the shower turning on, worse than anything I'd encountered yet, was the sound of the shower man's humming. It's not that there was anything particular out of the ordinary about it. It's not that there was anything outwardly frightening about the tunes themselves. Just the idea of being alone and suddenly hearing a human voice where no voice should be. Could have been a member I hadn't realized was exercising. And no, I would have seen anyone coming in. I double checked the roster of members on the computer, just in case, but I was right. It was 2:49 a.m. and there was nobody checked in. I had to steel myself to investigate. I only took one look at Connie's note and just ignored it before I snatched it off the side of the monitor and made my way towards the bathroom. In hindsight, it sounds counterintuitive. In the moment, I needed to prove to myself that I was hearing something. Otherwise, I would have lost my nerve entirely and left, and very likely never returned. As quietly as possible, I edged open the door. All the lights in the bathroom were off. Through the pitch black air, I could hear the sounds of wet feet on the tile. and the sounds of scrubbing, of torrents of water, and of a low, throated humming. All around me was sticky, wet steam in the dark. It took all my courage to confront the intruder, to flip on the lights and announce loudly, "Who's there?" But as soon as I turned the lights on, the water stopped running with a loud splatter. Steam billowed outwards, and the shower man was gone. I heard water spiral down the drain, but I didn't pull the curtain. I was too afraid of what I might see. An unusual smell lingered in the air too, but I couldn't quite place it. It should have been enough to make me quit, but when I consciously broached the subject with Connor, he just shook his head and shut me up instantly. "No, no, no, I don't want to hear about it," he said. "Whatever you've seen is just for you. Don't get me involved." But, no buts. Every one of us have seen strange things, get it? You remember what I told you, don't you? Ignore it. It won't do any good to bring anyone else into it. At least, all of me. Whatever you've been seeing, just be glad it's not intrusive, and leave that to that. Over the next few months, the shower man came to visit more and more regularly. He still does, but always when I'm alone. If someone else is there, I'll never see him. I've become intrigued by his presence, especially since nothing outwardly bad has happened yet. As long as I don't turn on the lights or make any noise, I can stay in the bathroom while he cleans. I can still listen to him humming, listen to his wet feet slapping in the suds. Knowing that there is someone or something else in the dark is a terrible feeling. I don't know how I'm supposed to stop, to ignore a presence like that. Part of me wants to catch a glimpse of him, and a part of me is terrified of what I might see. I've only done that twice. Sat there to listen to him, that is. The rest time, I got so scared after a few minutes that I crept back out and went to my desk, waiting quietly until I heard the shower stop, the curtain open, and wet feet walk away into nowhere. The second time, the water stopped while I was still in it with him. The humming stopped with the water, and then I heard the curtain slide open, the ringlets juddering on the pole, and some vast and terrible presence stepped out of the stall into the dark steam beside me. Even with my eyes adjusted to the dark, I could barely see, but I swear, whatever stepped out of that shower must have been at least 8 feet tall. I've never ran away so fast in my life. Now, I keep working. I need the money, but I ignore the shower man, just as I ignore the other strange bumps in the night. And just as I ignore the weirdo gym members who only work out at 3 a.m. It's the same to me. As long as I don't interrupt them, they don't interrupt me. The other morning, though, I heard the shower man just as I was getting ready to leave. It was nearly 4 in the morning, and Rita, who has a shift right after mine, came in the door. As she did, the shower water stopped. He doesn't like to be interrupted after all. I said good morning to Rita and got my things preparing to leave, but before I went, I stopped to use the bathroom. Normally I'd have to be nervous, especially knowing the shower man had been in there for only a few moments before. But Rita was there. Nothing sinister will happen while another living person was inside the building. I could count on that if I could count on anything, and so I wasn't concerned. Except that particular morning, something strange did happen. I could smell an unusual tang in the air, something different from the faintly soaping mix that normally pervades in the bathroom air. Something iron and sharp. I had smelled it once before, the first time that I'd interrupted the shower man, and I recognized that scent right away. I bypassed the toilets and crept straight toward the shower stalls, where one still stood with the curtain closed. The shower man's ritual having been so swiftly interrupted by Rita's arrival, I pulled the curtain aside and nearly fainted. The walls of the shower stall were crimson. The curtain was covered and dripping. Scarlet runnels pulled down through the grout and spun away into the drain, and that iron stench rose up in red tiles like a fist to smack me in my face. The stall had been drenched in gallons of human blood. Okay, thank you guys for listening to this story. I hope you guys enjoyed this story for today. Now, I'll see you guys in the next story. So sit back, relax, and listen.